What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Bush coming at you solo today to bring you my top 5 trade targets, buys and sells for week 3 of fantasy football. Another week of fantasy has passed. More overreactions, more things that we need to go through and digest. So, of course, you guys know our content schedule. You guys would have seen waiver wire targets already earlier today. You're seeing trade targets now. I'm going to be coming at you with running back starts and sits tomorrow, quarterback starts and sits, and then wide receiver and tight end starts and sits for the rest of the week. Then we'll have our rankings, and then we kick off football. So with each guy, I'm going to show you, as I did last week, real trades that actually happened, including these players, so that you know I'm telling you to go buy low this player. You can see exactly what you can get that player for, how you can go about approaching the other, fantasy manager and trying to inquire about that player. So if you guys enjoy this video at any point, I encourage you to go down to the bottom and hit the like button, comment any of your thoughts down below, maybe some of your trade questions, waiver targets, anything of that nature. We will answer the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Stay tuned to everything that we have coming every single day on the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Now let's hit the intro. One thing I'd like to get across really is always be willing to buy low on elite talents and elite playmakers, elite volume. So this is kind of like a blanket statement in general. If you guys don't want to watch this video every single week, I would suggest that one thing that you try and put into practice is look for the elite players that had down weeks and always be looking to attack them. So a couple guys that fit into that category, obviously, are guys like Saquon Barkley, guys like Alvin Kamara, guys like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf. Some of these guys we'll actually get into in this video, but I would just like to point that out as like a blanket statement. Always be willing to bet on guys that we know are elite football players, guys that we know can be elite fantasy producers, because that is the easiest way to go from like having a mess situation where you have maybe a potential breakout candidate and jump up to a guy that you know is elite, is going to give you that elite fantasy production. So speaking of elite fantasy production, I already kind of mentioned him. Alvin Kamara is the number one buy low for me right now. And he wasn't going to be, but the reason he is because I have gotten more questions about Alvin Kamara in the past 2 days or so than I ever expected to see about Alvin Kamara. And the reason I put him on this list now is because if people in our audience are asking me questions about Alvin Kamara, then people who are in more casual fantasy leagues, which is the majority of our audience, are probably also freaking out about Alvin Kamara. So Alvin Kamara, this is basically, again, economic theory here. The point of buying low on players is in stocks and fantasy, whatever you're buying low on, is to take advantage of the market. If the market does not view Alvin Kamara as anything less than the second best fantasy asset in fantasy football behind Christian McCaffrey, then you need to be buying Alvin Kamara. If you can get Alvin Kamara for anything less than 90% of what you have to pay for Christian McCaffrey, then you should be buying Alvin Kamara actively. As you guys can see on the screen, Alvin Kamara is a guy that doesn't see a 95% opportunity share, but we are actually seeing Alvin Kamara get more volume than we're used to seeing. In past years, when Latavius Murray and Mark Ingram were there, Alvin Kamara was not getting 55, 60% of the rushing attempts. He had his primary volume come from 21%, 32% of targets for the New Orleans Saints. And that's exactly what we're seeing out of Alvin Kamara right now. We're seeing him get a slight uptick in rushing volume and still keep that same receiving workload, that same goal line workload, and of course be the elite player that we've seen in years past with Alvin Kamara. So in my opinion, Alvin Kamara, if you guys remember a couple of years ago when Mark Ingram was suspended, that is the Alvin Kamara that we're seeing, only we don't have Drew Brees. If you guys can go out and acquire Alvin Kamara, and again, I'll show some trades on the screen right now. Alvin Kamara is being acquired right now in package deals, as you guys can see, with Alvin Kamara and Kenyon Drake being sent away for guys like Joe Mixon and Jalen Waddle. Again, give me the Kamara side any day of the week there. Alvin Kamara, Chase Claypool, Keenan Allen, Najee Harris. Again, that one's a little bit closer, but I would still take the Alvin Kamara side. Again, Alvin Kamara straight up basically for Saquon and Terry McLaurin. Give me Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara and Brandon Cooks moved for Nick Chubb. Alvin Kamara and Mike Evans moved for Tom Brady. Alvin Kamara moved for Devontae Adams and Mike Davis. Again, you are getting a discount on the second best asset in fantasy. I truly believe that is what Alvin Kamara is. That is what he's going to be this year. I'm not worried about Taysom Hill. I'm not worried about Jameis Winston. I'm not worried about the fact that they got shit stomped by the Carolina Panthers in this game. Alvin Kamara is an elite running back. He gets elite volume. He gets every bit the valuable volume for his offense, and he's an elite player. So go out and buy Alvin Kamara if the fantasy manager that owns him is panicking and willing to sell him for anything less than 95% of Christian McCaffrey. Another guy that is not in the elite category, but is a guy that I really believed in coming into the year. And so far, what I've seen from him is kind of exactly what I've expected, and that's Chase Claypool. And the Steelers offense is really just taking some time to adjust, which is why I think Chase Claypool and pretty much all the Steelers in general, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, some of these other guys, they're all good buy low candidates in general. This is a new scheme that they're implementing, a Rams 49ers type of scheme. It's a new offensive line all gelling together. I think the Steelers, as the season goes on, are going to become a more effective offense. They're not going to be the same like 16.5 points per game that they're scoring right now, which would be like a bottom of the league type of offense. I still view Chase Claypool as a wide receiver 2. I still view him as that same boomer bust wide receiver 2 type, kind of like 90% of Mike Evans is how I view Chase Claypool. I really love buying Chase Claypool so low right now because he is going as a borderline flex play. He is not a guy that you have to pay up as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, where you probably drafted him. I drafted him in the like late 4th round. I know some people probably would have got him in the 5th, 6th. I still view him as that same player. So some of the guys that you could probably get Chase Claypool for right now are lackluster talents. They're guys like Tyson Williams and Kenyon Drakes and just some guys that are like Marquise Browns and some guys that are having good starts to the season, but I don't necessarily believe they're better players than Chase Claypool, better outlooks than Chase Claypool going forward. We just haven't seen the touchdown luck with Chase Claypool. We haven't seen some of these big plays connect quite yet, and they're going to connect because when we've seen Chase Claypool make plays, we can clearly see that this guy is a phenomenal receiver. If you're 2-0 especially, I would highly suggest that you are willing to move pieces that are getting out to strong starts for a guy like Chase Claypool. If you can take Mike Williams or Deebo Samuel, Hollywood Brown, Sterling Shepard, all of these guys are off to good starts so far this season. I would move all of those guys straight up for Chase Claypool, and you could probably even get the Chase Claypool owner to give you something back on top of those players. So that's exactly what I'm looking to do. Like I said, especially if you were 2-0, go out and acquire Chase Claypool because towards the middle to late part of the season, I think the Steelers offense is really going to come together. New scheme, new offensive line. It's going to take them some time to gel. And Chase Claypool, as you guys can see on the screen, you can take Chase Claypool and Mike Davis for Marquise Brown and Michael Pittman Jr. Again, give me the Claypool side all day. Again, including Alvin Kamara. Chase Claypool and Alvin Kamara for Keenan Allen and Najee Harris. Both of these guys are buy low candidates for me. Therefore, I would take that side. When we look at some 1-for-1 trades, you can get Chase Claypool for Dallas Goedert. You can get Chase Claypool for Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith. You can get Chase Claypool and Devin Singletary for Deebo Samuel. Again, these are all reference points. These are to the type of players that you want to be trading away for Chase Claypool. So not all of these are going to be, wins in favor of Chase Claypool or anything like that. But that is exactly what I'm looking to do with this player because I think he is going to become that wide receiver 2 that we're seeing. And Deontay Johnson already banged up. That could bode well for Chase Claypool as well. So the next 2 guys that I'm going to talk about here is the Ole Miss wide receivers is basically what I'm going to refer to them as. And that's AJ Brown and DK Metcalf. Obviously, Elijah Moore also went to Ole Miss and he's a good buy low candidate as well. But the main 2 Ole Miss wide receivers that we've seen produce at an elite level, DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, we know that these 2 guys are bona fide studs. So like I said in the beginning, anytime you can buy elite talents and elite players who have been elite fantasy producers in the past for anything other than elite prices, that's when you've got a good buy low candidate on your hands because we know we're not betting on any unknown factor. We know that DK Metcalf is an elite receiver. We know that AJ Brown is an elite receiver. These guys have just gotten out to slow starts. Some of their other options in their offense are out producing them. We have a big sample size of these guys being elite. So if you can sell anybody that has gotten out to a hot start for either of these 2 guys, go out and do it. If you can package, and I've seen this happen, right? You can take Hollywood Brown, Sterling Shepard, Mike Williams, Deebo Samuel, Tyson Williams, Rob Gronkowski. If you can package 2 of those guys, right? Let's say you can take Tyson Williams and Rob Gronkowski to a team that needs a tight end, and you can go acquire DK Metcalf. You can go acquire AJ Brown. And again, before anybody says, there's no way you can do that in my league. If you play in a more sharp league, maybe you won't be able to do something like that. But in more casual leagues, I think you'll be able to get that done. If you can take any of those 2 players that I just mentioned that have gotten out to strong starts and package them for one of these 2 Ole Miss wide receivers, AJ Brown or DK Metcalf, that is a very, very sharp move that you can do because the reason that trophy right behind me is there is because I made a move like this last year. I took Aaron Jones coming off of a 45-point game like we just saw from Aaron Jones last night. In fact, he was coming off of a monster game last year, and I sold him for Joe Mixon, who had gotten out to a slow start, and AJ Brown, who had gotten out to a slow start. And then later in the season, I eventually sold Joe Mixon before he got injured for Alvin Kamara with some other pieces along with that trade. But basically the point of this is I knew AJ Brown was an elite talent. I knew he was going to be coming into his own as a second-year wide receiver, just like I'm projecting for guys like Chase Claypool and Brandon Ayuk. It just took him some time. So that is exactly why I'm willing to buy some of these young, talented receivers who have produced in the past. I talked about Brandon Ayuk last week. I'm talking about Chase Claypool this week. T. Higgins, again, another guy that you could go out and buy. Anytime you got a young, ascending, talented wide receiver like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf are, be willing to buy them low because we've already seen them produce as elite players before. And I don't think that's going to end anytime soon just because some of their other guys in their offense are producing. And as you guys can see on the screen, you can get DK Metcalf for pennies on the dollar right now. There's a guy who traded, two Seahawks on Seahawks violence, DK Metcalf for Chris Carson. Straight up, give me DK Metcalf easily. If you can get DK Metcalf and Miles Sanders for Ezekiel Elliott, this guy got DK Metcalf for Deebo Samuel and Javonte Williams. Again, I like those players, Javonte Williams especially, but DK Metcalf is a bona fide stud. He's a bona fide elite level wide receiver in fantasy. DK Metcalf and Justin Herbert from Michael Thomas and Lamar Jackson. Again, in a one quarterback league, I'm absolutely willing to make that trade. DK Metcalf, again, you got him in exchange for Adam Thielen and Josh Jacobs. Again, Adam Thielen, another guy that has gotten out to a very strong start to the season that I'm going to talk about in a second, but this is exactly what you want to be doing. You want to take advantage of those value spikes because fantasy players can only think of the last 2 weeks. It's all we've seen so far this season. They're going to think whatever has happened the last 2 weeks is going to happen for the rest of the season. And it's not. It's how it works. If you look back at last year, you can see that guys like Julian Edelman were like top 10 wide receivers and then were borderline droppable by week 5. And then on the A.J. Brown side of things, you can see A.J. Brown going for Miles Sanders and Terry McLaurin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Give me A.J. Brown easily over those assets. Give me him over, Tyler Lockett. And you also get Devontae Smith involved in this package. A.J. Brown for Rob Gronkowski and Marquise Brown, exactly what I was talking about. If you compare Marquise Brown and Rob Gronkowski to a tight end needy team and go out and snipe a elite wide receiver off their roster, then go ahead and do that. Because I can assure you, even if Marquise Brown and Rob Gronkowski hit their ceiling, I still don't think they're going to be as valuable as A.J. Brown once he figures his shit out, once this Titans offense figures their shit out. So speaking of an offense that needs to figure their shit out, the New York Jets, their whole offense is an offense that I'm willing to buy into right now because I think they're going for their absolute floor. Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter, Zach Wilson, maybe in Superflex leagues, but mainly those 3 skill position players. This offense just got embarrassed, right? Everybody's perception of the Jets offense is the same old Jets, right? That's exactly what they're going to be thinking. The perception of Zach Wilson is probably that he's a bust. People don't want pieces of this offense. This rookie quarterback stinks. He's not going to be able to support anybody, right? That is exactly what people are going to be thinking. But let me start with Michael Carter, because what Michael Carter showed last week went really under the radar for the fact that the Patriots just shit stomped the Jets. So as you guys can see on the screen, in week 1, Michael Carter was a 25% snap share guy, 21% of the rush attempts, 22% of the routes. So he was a guy that was not involved. He was like the 3rd running back on the team. But after last week, we saw Michael Carter get more involved. 45% of the snaps, 37% of the rushing attempts, 35% of the routes. And not only that, but this is the important thing and the thing that I really liked about Michael Carter coming out of school. He got all the 2-minute drill snaps and a good percentage of the long down and distance. So this is a guy that is going to be more involved in the receiving game with that kind of usage. And exactly what I wanted to see out of Michael Carter is what I saw. Him progressing as the year goes on. That is what happens with rookie running backs. If you drafted Michael Carter, you should have been, cognizant of the fact that you weren't going to be able to use the guy for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season because he's got to get his legs under him. He's got to get acclimated to the NFL. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see with Michael Carter as the season goes along. So if you can go out and buy Michael Carter for probably nothing right now, you could probably get Michael Carter for Zach Pascal right now, easily, probably. So if you can go out and do something like that, I would highly suggest you do that. Again, if you are 2-0 especially, and you can afford to put this guy on the end of your bench and wait for him to develop, maybe wait for him to take over this backfield, I think he's going to pay big dividends as the season goes along. And on the wide receivers front, Davis and Moore need to be treated as wide receiver 3s week in and week out, especially Corey Davis, because we've already seen him produce. But this is a rookie quarterback. These things take time, especially with a new scheme and a new quarterback installing a new system. And not to mention, they were playing against the best defensive mind of all time in the NFL, right? Bill Belichick versus a rookie quarterback at his 2nd NFL start. How could that not end badly? That is the way I'm looking at this situation. It's a bump in the road for Zach Wilson. He's going to learn from it. He's going to get better. This offense is not going to be the worst in the NFL. I can promise you that. And you guys can see it is being treated as if it is the worst offense in the NFL right now. And you can get Corey Davis as like a package deal in some of these trades. Corey Davis plus Kareem Hunt in exchange for Tony Pollard is a phenomenal trade to make if you have Tony Pollard. Corey Davis and James Robinson in exchange for Kareem Hunt and Mecole Hardman. Again, a lot of these trades you guys are going to see are exactly what you want to be doing. You want to be taking advantage of the fact that everybody is down on Corey Davis, even though he had a fantastic week 1. Everybody's down on Corey Davis because this Jets offense looked really bad. But that's only going to happen probably once or twice for the rest of the year. It's not going to be an every week thing that this Jets offense looks like this. So make sure you buy low on these guys. Elijah Moore included. Elijah Moore is legitimately running wide receiver 1 of his team type of routes. He's running 85+% of the routes, getting targeted when he can. and he is going to improve. He's a rookie receiver with a rookie quarterback. It's going to take time. It's going to improve as the season goes along. So this New York Jets offense, again, if you are 2-0, go out and acquire Elijah Moore on the cheap. Go out and acquire Corey Davis on the cheap. You could probably get Elijah Moore, like I said, for a guy like Zach Pascal, or a guy that is, performing well at the beginning of the season, but we don't necessarily expect that going forward. If you can sell Sterling Shepard right now for Corey Davis, go ahead and do that. Those are just kind of some of the trades that I wanted to talk about. Last honorable mention that I want to talk about in the buy low area of this video is running backs with big workloads that are just disappointing. So David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, Najee Harris, Joe Mixon last week. If you guys can go buy these guys low as well, we know their workloads are secure. We know that they're great players for the most part. So go out and acquire those guys as well. Now we transition into some sell highs, some guys that have had good weeks to start the season that we don't necessarily believe in long-term, that we want to get off of our roster before their value dip kind of kicks in. Devin Singletary, again, is the prime example of this. I don't know what this mysterious absence about Zach Moss was in week 1, but I believe this backfield will go back to what I thought it was going to, where Devin Singletary and Zach Moss are going to cannibalize each other. They're going to be sharing a relatively small pie to begin with because of what Josh Allen brings with his legs. So all of these guys, Devin Singletary's, any kind of fringe RB2 type that has gotten out to a good start to the season, Tyson Williams, Melvin Gordon, some of these guys that are all, on pretty good trajectories right now as running backs. Go out and sell these guys for better assets, for better wide receivers, for maybe more fruitful running back situations. Anything you can do with some of these low-end running back twos is definitely something that I'd be willing to do, because Devin Singletary, I don't think he's going to be getting anything more than RB3 type of volume, RB3 type of value once Moss works himself back into the fold. And we already kind of saw that last week. Devin Singletary had a huge play, but Zach Moss was still involved. He was still going to be involved because he is, in my opinion, the better runner of the football. And these guys are going to cannibalize each other. And as you guys can see on the screen, Devin Singletary was sold straight up for Justin Jefferson. Like, that is all you really need to know about some people's recency bias. This guy took Devin Singletary, packaged him with Phillip Lindsay and Jamar Chase. Again, kind of a noise trade, and he got Stephon Diggs. Like, if you can do anything relating to this, Devin Singletary for Julio Jones, Devin Singletary for James Robinson, Devin Singletary for David Montgomery, Devin Singletary for Robbie Anderson and Josh Jacobs, anytime you can take a guy that has gotten out to a strong start and upgrade, that is always something I'm willing to do. Another group of guys in this sell high mold that I'm just going to close this video out with is that anybody who has a lot of touchdowns is somebody that I'm looking to sell high. Now, I'm going to exclude Cooper Kupp from this because he does have a lot of touchdowns, but I believe in Cooper Kupp to potentially be a top 8 wide receiver for the rest of the year. So I'm excluding Cooper Kupp in this talk, but Adam Thielen and Tyler Lockett are specifically who I'm referring to when I say anybody who has a lot of touchdowns, because Thielen and Lockett are guys that I'm shopping specifically for elite wide receivers. If you can get Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf plus for these guys, for Thielen and Lockett, go ahead and do that, because as much as I believe in those guys, I think they can be wide receiver 2s for the rest of the year. I think they're going to stop scoring touchdowns every single game and scoring multiple touchdowns every single game. So if you can use that leverage, that strong start to the season that they've had, take Adam Thielen and go get Devontae Adams. Go ahead and do that, because the target share that we've seen out of guys like Devontae Adams and Stephon Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins is safer week over week than what we've seen out of guys like Adam Thielen, who are going to score touchdowns. I'm not denying the fact that Adam Thielen's going to stay involved in the red zone, but I would rather have guys like Diggs and Adams and Hopkins who are also involved in the red zone, but get more targets than those guys. Another group of guys that kind of fits into this is any kind of fringe players that are scoring a lot of touchdowns. So guys like Zach Pascal, as I already talked about, if you can flip him for Elijah Moore, if you can flip him for Michael Carter, if you can flip him something, you might even be able to flip him for Chase Claypool for some people. Even Brandon Ayuk, another guy that I'd be willing to go buy for Zach Pascal, and also Rob Gronkowski. And as much as I hate to say this about Rob Gronkowski because he plays for my team, he's not going to score 4 touchdowns in 2 games. This is a guy that is kind of at a sell high point right now. If you can sell Rob Gronkowski and look for 2 for 2s, look for 2 for 1 upgrades, like some of the ones above that you guys can see. This guy took Rob Gronkowski and James Robinson, upgraded to Noah Fant and Joe Mixon. Now, Noah Fant and Rob Gronkowski, I view as similar players at the tight end position, but James Robinson and Joe Mixon is a pretty big difference. And same goes for taking this other trade here. We got Rob Gronkowski and Marquise Brown for Jonathan Taylor and Tyler Higbee. That is exactly the type of trade you want to be making. If you can take a guy that has got out to a strong start in Rob Gronkowski and upgrade to a better option at another position by taking Rob Gronkowski and, Marquise Brown, for example, and upgrading to a Jonathan Taylor who's gotten to a bit of a slow start, and Noah Fant, who's a marginal downgrade at tight end comparison to Rob Gronkowski, then you can really take advantage of selling high on some of these players. Again, downgrade a bit at one position to upgrade at another, and also look to go after George Kittle. If you can get George Kittle for Rob Gronkowski straight up. Maybe you have to add in a small piece with Rob Gronkowski to get George Kittle. That is another thing that I'm looking to do if I own Rob Gronkowski. So that is the end of the video, guys. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, comment any of your thoughts down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're coming at you every Tuesday with trade targets. I believe Danny's going to be coming at you next week with some of his trade targets. Wednesday, running back starts and sits. Stay tuned for that tomorrow. If you guys want to support us in any way, you can go access our weekly rankings to help you with your start sit decisions at our website, thefantasystockexchange.com. There's one of 3 ways you can get them. Pay $20 directly on the website. You can sign up on Underdog Fantasy using promo code FSE. That'll also get you the weekly rankings for free. And you can sign up on patreon.com/fantasy stock exchange also to get the weekly rankings. So peace out, guys, and enjoy your day.